Now let's turn our attention to Africa. 2 coups have taken place in a span of about a month, both in former French colonies, in West Africa's Niger and Central Africa's Gabon. And in both cases, they were led by members of the Presidential Guard. These were men who were supposed to protect the presidents. Instead, they put them in detention. Now, in both Niger and Gabon, the presidents are being held in their respective presidential palaces. So a lot of similarities, but that's where the list ends. There are differences too. In Niger, for example, the coup is overtly fueled by an anti-France sentiment. And it's a very strong sentiment. The new junta are relying on it for popular support. They hope to draw legitimacy from this anti-France sentiment. So every other day, there's a new salvo fired at the French. First, Paris was asked to recall its ambassador. Then the junta targeted French troops. France has a permanent troop presence in Niger. The junta told them to remove the soldiers, to take the French soldiers away. France ignored both the demands. Paris says it does not recognize Niger's new junta. It says Mohamed Bazoum is Niger's rightful leader. He's the ousted president, Mohamed Bazoum. Even in detention, he refuses to step down, and the French president, Emmanuel Macron, has showered praise on him. Macron says he speaks to Bazoum every day. And all this has incensed Niger's military.
The government of the Republic of Niger has followed with dismay the remarks made by the President of the French Republic during his address to the French ambassadors. These remarks constitute a further blatant interference in Niger's internal affairs.
So France has become an unwanted guest, one that refuses to leave. And this is the line taken by Niger's junta and their supporters. And there are thousands of these supporters. They back the new military leaders. They're targeting France. They've surrounded the French military base near Niger's capital. The city is called Niamey. There's a French base near it. It houses some 1,500 French troops. The coup supporters want them out. For days now, the people of Niger have been protesting here. Tens of thousands have surrounded the French base. They're demonstrating peacefully and creatively. They've been displaying coffins bearing the French flag. It signifies the death of French influence in Niger. Women have been using cooking utensils to demand that the French leave.
They defy our governments, they defy our laws, and they, who call themselves Democrats, do not respect democracy. That's why we women thought that the men insisted. They persisted. We planned to change the order of departure to bring out our utensils to come to make noise so that the message can pass. That they say that it is not the men, it is all the Nigerians who demand their departure.
Stages have been set up around the base. Musicians have been performing there. People have been on a sit-in for 2 nights now. And they say they won't leave until the French are gone.
France will leave. This is our home. They are going to leave whether they want to or not. If they won't leave, we are here. We are going to stay. Even if it's 100 years, we're going to stay here. We are determined and France will leave.
The French were forced to leave Mali and Burkina Faso too. 2 other West African nations that have also seen coups in recent years. But in Niger, Paris is resisting. It has threatened to retaliate in case of violence and is hoping that somehow the coup will be reversed, perhaps with intervention from the West African bloc called ECOWAS. That's the Economic Community of West African States. The acronym is ECOWAS, E-C-O-W-A-S. And while all of this is happening in Niger, there is relative calm in Gabon. Gabon too was a French colony, and it also houses a permanent French military force. But so far, the anti-French rhetoric in Gabon has been subdued. Instead, the anger is focused on the Bongo family, the family that has ruled Gabon for about 55 years. President Ali Bongo has been ousted and is in detention. His son, Noureddin Bongo Valentin, has also been arrested. Their loyalists are also being imprisoned. Meanwhile, this happened today.
I swear before God and the Gabonese people to loyally preserve the Republican regime, to respect and uphold respect in the transitional charter and the law, to carry out my duties for the higher interests of the people, to preserve the gains of democracy, the independence of the homeland, and the integrity of the nation's territory.
That is Gabon's new president of the transition, General Brice Oligui Nguema. He was sworn in today in a ceremony full of pomp and pageantry. It's not like the brusque declaration in Niger where it was just announced that General Abdul Rahmane Tiani was in charge. Gabon's coup looks more aristocratic. In Niger, the junta had said it will hand back power to civilians in 3 years. Negotiations are on with neighboring nations. The West African bloc ECOWAS wants a 9-month transition period. Algeria has proposed a 6-month period for the junta to give up power. Now, none of these have been accepted, but talks are still on. In Gabon, we still have no transition timeline. Even though there's a president of the transition now, the one you just saw, Gabon's military has said that it will proceed, quote unquote, without haste. That a new constitution will be drawn up, that new democratic institutions will be put in place. It sounds like a long drawn out process, especially if they go about it without haste. Add to all of this the fact that Gabon's new leader is related to the Bongo family. He's a cousin of Ali Bongo, with supposed ties to his half-sister Pascaline, who loyally served in their father Omar Bongo's regime and allegedly promised to take care of the family. When you consider all of this, then Gabon's coup seems a little different, less about doing away with French exploitation and more about internal politics. France has condemned the coup in Gabon. It has suspended military cooperation with the new regime, but it's not antagonizing the new rulers like it is in Niger. That may change in the near future, but it could also be that Gabon's new leader takes a leaf out of his cousin's book, keeping ties with France alive for mutual benefit.